Guys, I have Bob Chapman on the line. Bob, thanks for taking this call. I don't think we were scheduled to speak until September 9th. It's Friday as we record this call, and the title of this call is Treason. I want to talk to you about the out-of-control actions of a government that is no longer respectful of the Constitution. I want to talk to you about the deindustrialization of America, and I want to talk to you about the abysmal non-farms payroll report that came out today. Bob, the Gibson Guitar Company was raided by the Justice Department, and they're being told, quote, your problems would go away if you'd use Madagascar labor. They're destroying us by design, Bob, and it's absolute treason. What's your take on the non-farms payroll number, Bob?
Well, it was dreadful. But to answer the part of the question you just asked, I wrote my first article on this for American Mercury in August of 1967. And I had figured out the only way they can bring America to its knees is by free trade, globalization. I didn't know that's what it was going to be called in those days, offshoring and outsourcing. And that cost us 11.7 million jobs in the last 11 years. And so what you say is very true. And then finally people in the last 5 or so years are waking up to the fact that we are being deliberately deindustrialized. And I explain that in many of my articles to a great extent. And we've moved from a manufacturer of 30% of what we used in America down to about 11%. And it's devastating because those were good-paying jobs. We don't have them anymore. They're in another place. And how are we going to solve that problem? We're going to get Congress, if we can, to institute tariffs on goods and services as well as quantifying and qualifying what they're doing with their currencies. Because since the Second World War, every country in the world has demeaned their currency so that they can compete with one another, but also have cheaper goods for the United States. And that's something we've had to fight all the way.
Let's talk specifically about this Gibson guitar raid, Bob, because when I talk about treason, there is no better example than the Justice Department and the Obama administration basically telling the CEO of Gibson Guitar that, quote, your problems would go away if you'd use Madagascar labor instead of our labor. This is the epitome, the best example, the best recent example of the deindustrialization of America. And, Bob, this is Agenda 21. Maybe you should tell folks a little bit about what Agenda 21 is and what it means to the future of our country.
Well, it means deindustrialization, control, moving people into cities from the countryside, so to speak, and then government controlling where they live. A good example is Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, and FHA. They've given these loans out, subprime, Alta-type loans, not good quality loans, secondary and third-level loans. Now they're stuck with them. Now they've got all of this real estate plus what all the banks are holding. 8 years ago, I wrote an article. Fannie and Freddie are bankrupt, and the government's going to take them over. And why are they doing it? They want to nationalize housing so they can control the population as to where they live and where they work. Right now, the government's talking about taking the homes with Fannie, Freddie, et cetera, and renting them. That's the next step. The next step that they'll do is like they did with the toxic bonds, the CDOs and the MBSs, bonds with mortgages inside. They bought them from banks during the last 3 years. What did they pay? We don't know. What are they worth? We don't know.
Yeah, and they're also.
Wait a minute. They're going to go one more step further here. They're going to buy the mortgages of these foreclosed homes from the banks, paying them far more than they should. The dwellings are going to move along with the ones they've already got from Fannie, Freddie, et cetera. They're going to put them together, and then they're going to start renting them. And over a period of time, they'll try to get all of them. About 40 to 45% of homes are totally owned. And as people die, usually, very often, they sell, the beneficiaries, sell the homes. And so they want to corral 100% of the homes over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, let's piggyback on this idea of treason and deindustrialization. I want to bridge over to an article from the testosteronepit.com entitled In the Bowels Jobs Report, 15.4 million missing jobs. And the most important part of this article to me, Bob, is at the bottom where they talk about the new San Francisco Bay Bridge, the most expensive structure under construction right now in the United States. And incredibly, its most prominent segment was built in China.
They brought it over piece by boat and fit it together like a jigsaw puzzle. And all the workers were Chinese.
So essentially, at the end of the day, there's no hope for this country if we don't immediately turn this thing around. But I don't know how we turn it around when the government itself is going after honorable companies like Gibson Guitar, who have chosen to keep their manufacturing here in this country when they could make far more profits by outsourcing that manufacturing. And you have a government working against them, working against small business at every turn.
The only hope we have is in the Congress. And 95% of them have been bought and paid for by the people behind the scenes who fund the Obamas and the Perrys and Romneys and so on and so forth. That's how it works. And you give somebody $1 million for their campaign, and they're going to listen. And if they say, well, we need more of this deindustrialization, they're going to do it. So if we cannot legally go through the system, example, if Ron Paul can't get elected and people like him can't get elected in the next election, it's a last chance. And what comes after that? There can only be one thing. It's called revolution.
I was just going to bring up Ron Paul because there's another money bomb for Ron Paul in a couple of weeks, and I want your opinion on what, for the sheeple, for the people that do not seem to understand this and only listen to the mainstream media, for those that are going to take the time to listen to this, you tell me what the difference is between a guy like Ron Paul and Rick Perry or Mitt Romney. I know, but I want you to tell it to the audience.
Well, they're totally bought and paid for by the powers behind government. And they shape themselves into whatever silhouette they have to be in order to get elected. Romney is a political hack.
Who played a role in writing Obamacare.
That's right. And he's just not a good person. He won't be a good president. He's not just another one of them. Perry's another piece of work. I mean, this guy is a sicko.
What do you know about Rick Perry having met at a Bilderberg conference, or I think he was invited to speak at a Bilderberg conference meeting? I think he was hand-selected.
There's two of them he went to.
Yeah.
Two of them.
You're not going to catch Ron Paul at a Bilderberg meeting.
But what I think of is wrong about Perry from a moral point of view. This guy says he's a moralist. He's a super Christian. And he attends sex orgies with both men and women.
Those are the reports we're hearing.
And I've heard it right from people who have evidence from people who have been at those affairs.
Well, look, for the people that call themselves Republicans, because I don't think that you or I identify with Republican or Democrat, we're beyond that paradigm. It's a false paradigm. They're bought and paid for. They're owned by both sides. You need to be an independent, a libertarian, a constitutionalist, whatever you want to call yourself. In the case of Perry, he once headed up Al Gore's campaign. He was a Democrat. He supported Hillary Care. I mean, this is absurd for people to not see right through this. When the mainstream media suddenly propels him forward as the number one candidate, the lead guy, they're just setting him up for the sheeple to vote for him, and it's absurd and it's sick, and I'm just tired of it.
And all of those things do apply. And but this is what the power is behind government, that they can continue to choose these malleable people who'll go for any price. Mm-hmm. Now, both those gentlemen, I shouldn't call them gentlemen, but both those candidates who are running, Romney and Perry, even if they're not elected, they're going to be taken care of. It'll be $5 billion in that account over there and $5 billion in that account over there.
Yeah.
This is how this thing works.
Right.
And don't think that it doesn't.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching part 1. Don't miss part 2. Click here.